Everyone, this is a video lecture series for EC302 Digital Communications under KT University, and in this video we shall discuss about the multiple access techniques for wireless communications. Let's quickly begin with the first part of the video, which is multiple access techniques for wireless communications. In this video, I'll be covering these four major topics: the frequency division multiple access FDMA, time division multiple access TDMA, space division multiple access, and spread spectrum multiple access technologies. The concept of multiple access or duplexing came into picture when many users were trying to communicate at the same time using the or sharing the finite amount of radio spectrum available without compromising on the performance of the system, trying both on frequency domain and time domain. Initially, we had come across the term duplexing, or we've already studied about TDD and FDD, time division duplexing and frequency division duplexing. How are they different from these multiple access techniques? Now we have FDD and FDMA. Are they same or are they different? They are obviously different techniques, or same technology utilized in two different scenarios. Frequency division duplexing. When two users are trying to communicate, we have the forward and the reverse channel, or we could call it uplink and the downlink. So each of these channels are assigned to a different frequency. You have the forward frequency band and the reverse frequency band, and there will always be a frequency separation between the forward and the reverse band, which is constant. As you can see in the figure, you have the reverse channel, you have the forward channel, and the space between which is a frequency separation. Now FDMA is different from FDD, or frequency division duplexing. How are they different is, in an FDMA, this technology permits multiple users to simultaneously access a transmission system. I'm talking about FDMA, whereas FDD describes the way the radio channel is shared between the downlink and uplink. That is how the available radio channel is split or shared among the forward and the reverse band, whereas FDMA talks about how multiple users can utilize or access a single channel simultaneously. FDM refers to a physical layer method that blends and transmits the low bandwidth channels via a high bandwidth channel. Multiplexing technique. Whereas in FDMA, it is a channel access technique in the data link layer. Similarly, we have TDD as well, that is time division duplexing, where it uses time for forward and reverse link. Unlike frequency for FDD, here it uses time as the reference for forward and the reverse link. You have a forward time slot, you have a reverse time slot. That is, the uplink and the downlink are provided two different time slots to communicate. Now again, here TDD and TDMA, if we compare, both technologies use time division to partition the available bandwidth, but difference is in their goal. That is, TDD is a duplexing technology that aims to use the same frequency to provide continuous flow of information in both the directions. Whereas TDMA is a multiplexing technology where its goal is to combine multiple signals into a single channel. This is used in cellular systems where hundreds of cell phone mobile users may be connecting to a single base station. Now, let's enter into our concept of multiple access techniques where I told you I'll be discussing about FDMA, TDMA, code division multiple access CDMA, space division multiple access, and also about this spread spectrum technique, and also about the narrowband and wideband systems. Now, what do you understand by this narrowband and wideband systems? In a narrowband system, the available bandwidth of a single channel compared to the coherent bandwidth of the channel is very small. That is, the available spectrum, you can divide it into large number of narrowband channels. Whereas in wideband systems, the users are allowed to transmit in a large part of the spectrum, and here the transmission bandwidth of a single channel is much larger than the coherence bandwidth of the channel. We have already covered this in the module 5 videos. So I hope it was clear to you what is a narrowband system and a wideband system. What is the actual importance of multiple access technique? The available radio spectrum is being shared by the mobile users simultaneously. The sharing may be based on frequency, time, or code, and accordingly we have this frequency division, time division, and code division multiple access. We have also space. With respect to space also, we can classify it as space division multiple access. So under narrowband systems, we do have, we can use FDD, FDMA, all these technologies. Now both FDD and FDMA, when used together, we call it FDMA, FDD system. Similarly, we have TDMA, FDD, TDMA, TDD as well. In wideband as well, we can use all of these techniques like CDMA technology, and CDMA combined with FDD, CDMA combined with TDD. So all these techniques can be used because in wideband systems we can use large number of transmitters on one channel. Let us discuss about different multiple access techniques in use in cellular systems. In first generation advanced mobile phone systems AMPS, it uses the FDMA clubbed with FDD access technique. GSM, Global System for Mobile, which will be discussed in this module, uses the TDMA FDD technique. US Digital Cellular USDC uses the TDMA FDD technique, and the DECT Digital European Cordless Telephone, which will be discussed in the last video of this module, it uses the technique of FDMA TDD. And the last US narrowband spread spectrum CDMA, it uses CDMA FDD. And generally spread spectrum combines with CDMA always, code division multiple access. These are the important or popular systems which are in use today. We do have other technologies as well which uses these multiple access techniques for simultaneous communication between different users. So let's see the pictorial representation of TDMA and FDMA, which tells us very clearly what the concept is about. So in TDMA, as you can see, let's say this block or the rectangular block indicates the available bandwidth to us. Okay, so the available bandwidth is being split into different time slots. As I told you, in TDMA we make use of the time slots, right? So here you have, for the same frequency, you have different time slots available, or time slots are also referred to as channels. So you have channel 1 to 6, and then again it repeats from channel 1 to 6 and so on. So this set of, it depends. For example, it's taken over here that the 6 channels are being repeated, right? So each of these 6 channels or time slot are referred to as a TDMA frame. Here we look into the frame structure and all that in detail, but the concept should be clear from this picture, that each user is assigned a different time slot to transmit its information. Okay, so if we have 2 or 3 or 6 number of users, they cannot transmit simultaneously. They use different time slots assigned to them. So whenever their turn comes, they transmit it. Okay, So that is a bit about time division multiple access. Next is frequency division multiple access. Here if you check, the classify or the splitting up is not done as per the time axis. It is done with the frequency axis, right? The frequency, you can see F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6 marked over here. So the available frequency or the available bandwidth is split or divided in frequency. Different frequencies are assigned to each user, and all the users are transmitting simultaneously but at different frequencies. So I hope the difference is clear in TDMA and FDMA. In TDMA, simultaneous transmission does not occur because each user is assigned a different time slot to transmit the information. Whereas in frequency division multiple access, each user is assigned a different frequency so they can transmit simultaneously. Frequency division multiple access. So in this technique, as I told you, the total bandwidth available, let me say the available bandwidth is W and there are M number of users, then each user is allocated a channel with a bandwidth of W by M Hertz. Now talking about the features of FDMA, the FDMA channel carries only one phone circuit at a time. And if an FDMA channel is not in use, let's say one of the frequency assigned is not in use, that user which is assigned to that particular frequency has nothing to transmit, okay, then it sits idle and cannot be used by any other users, cannot be taken by any other user to transmit the information. It remains idle, and this it is essentially a wastage of resource, right? It cannot be, since it cannot be used by any other person and also the assigned user is also not using it, then it becomes a wastage of the resource. And this FDMA technique, as I told you, it is a simultaneous and continuous transmitting technique. It is usually implemented in narrowband systems. The bandwidth of FDMA channels are relatively narrow, that is 30 kilohertz or so, as each channel supports only one circuit per carrier. Okay, so they are mainly implemented in narrowband systems. The symbol time is large as compared to the average delay spread. That is in terms of intersymbol interference. If you're talking about, the average delay is less comparatively, and so the amount of interference is also low. And so we do not have to go for equalization techniques and all that in FDMA narrowband systems. The complexity of FDMA mobile system is lower compared to the TDMA systems. We'll see why. And the reason being the time, because we have to split the signal in time slots. We need proper techniques for it. Whereas in FDMA it is simultaneous transmission. Since it is FDMA is a continuous transmission scheme, only fewer bits are needed for overhead purpose, such as like if you need synchronization or you need framing bits like start of the bit and end of the bit, you need extra bits for all these, right? So the overhead bits required will be very less compared to TDMA technique. And also the FDMA mobile unit uses duplexes. Since both the transmitter and receiver operate at the same time, this will result in a cost for FDMA systems or subscriber units. FDMA requires tight RF filtering to avoid adjacent channel interference, because we are transmitting different frequencies at the same time. This would lead to adjacent channel interference. So that major problem has to be overcome in FDMA systems. Now, this is what, as I've already discussed to you, comparison of FDMA to TDMA, few bits for synchronization, few bits for framing, that is overhead. Higher cell site system costs, that is, the FDMA systems have higher cell site system costs as compared to TDMA because the single channel per carrier design, right? FDMA uses only single channel per carrier. So the need to use costly bandpass filters and all that to eliminate all this spikes or spurious radiations at the base station. So the implementation cost for FDMA is quite high. Even the duplexes, as I told you, it would add on to cost for FDMA systems, and also channel interference. To avoid it, we have to go for RF filtering, which would also add to cost and the complexity of the system. Now, non-linearity in effects in FDMA. Since we have many channels, that is, same antenna is transmitting at different frequencies, right? So maximum power efficiency near saturation, that is, you need power efficiency is maximum for FDMA. And all these non-linearities, like, since it is being transmitted at different frequencies, you'll have signal spreading happening, you'll have interference, multipath fading, and all that coming into picture over here. You would also have intermodulation frequencies. When fading happens, or constructive interference or destructive interference happens, then such non-linearities would be affecting the FDMA technique. Intermodular frequencies at desired are nothing but undesired harmonics, which are to be removed through filters or proper design of the system. Now, this interference with other channels in the FDMA system, yeah, of course. So other FDMA systems would also interfere with our FDMA system, and that would also cause interference. Now, the carrier to interference ratio, so as interference is more, the overall performance, or the factor which decides the performance, is a carrier interference ratio. So the overall performance is decreased. Adjacent channel interference, as I already discussed, RF filters would be needed, which would add on to cost. Now, in an FDMA system, the number of channels, if you have to put it in a mathematical form, capital N is equal to BT minus B guard by BC, where N is the number of channels, BT stands for the total available spectrum or total spectrum allocation, B guard refers to the guard band, and BC refers to the channel bandwidth. So you should know this formula to solve problems in FDMA technique. N is equal to BT minus B guard by BC. Now, this is an example of different values where you have taken BT to be 12.5 megahertz. This is an AMPS system which uses FDMA FDD technique. It's an analog cellular, first generation analog cellular system. B guard is 10 kilohertz, BC is taken to be 30 kilohertz. Now, calculating capital N, number of channels, when you substitute in the formula, you get 416 channels are possible in advanced mobile phone system. Now, time division multiple access. This technique we have already discussed, that is, each user is being assigned a time slot for accessing the channel. One user per slot, that is the criteria. And you have buffer and burst method, that is, whatever information you have to transmit is buffered or is stored, and whenever that particular user's time slot comes, then it starts transmitting the data. Compared to FDMA, this is a non-continuous transmission technique, and it's usually used for transmitting digital data and also digital modulated signals. Now, considering the TDMA frame structure, you can see one TDMA frame consists of the information at the center, and you have the preamble and the trail bits. Yeah, so the information message, the complete information, as you can see, is split again into slot 1 to N, depending on the number of slots. In the figure which we had discussed previously, we had 6 slots which were repeated. And then each slot again would have the trail bit, synchronization bit, information, and the guard bit. So this is the frame structure. of a TDMA frame. Features of TDMA. The TDMA shares a single carrier frequency with several users, where each user makes use of a non-overlapping time slot. Yeah, so single carrier frequency, different time slots. Data transmission in TDMA is not continuous, as I've already told you, but occurs in burst. Burst means which is not continuous. So whenever one user acquires its time slot, it's not actually acquiring. When its turn comes, it transmits the data. So it appears to be in burst. So here, if you think about handoff technology, TDMA is better. I mean, it's quite simpler to implement this handoff technology in TDMA systems. And the TDMA is an advantage that it is possible to allocate different number of time slots per frame to different users. And bandwidth can be supplied on demand. So whenever a user demands for a channel, so it can be assigned based on demand. So maybe two channels are trying, so two users are there, and the user one has much more important data, or you can say much more amount of data to be transmitted. So maybe it could be given time slot accordingly on priority, and guard slots are necessary, and it can jump from one time slot to the other. So, and high synchronization overhead. Of course, synchronization is very important, because only after one user completely transmits its data can the other user start transmitting the data. That is whenever its time slot comes. Now, like we have done in TDMA, here number of channels in FDMA. Here in TDMA we have this formula as capital N, or number of channels equal to M into B total minus 2 times B guard by BC. N is the number of channels, M number of users per channel, B total is the total spectrum allocation, guard band, B guard, BC is the channel bandwidth. This is an example for GSM. The values are given, and when you substitute it, you would get around 1000 simultaneous users for a GSM system. Talking about the efficiency of TDMA system, you have usually the end user efficiency is much less because of this source coding and channel encoding. We do have all these overhead frames and all that, so maybe redundancy or the overhead problems would arise, because we have to assign some time for those redundant bits as well. So the transmitted data, how much information it contains, it also depends on the preamble and the trail bits we assign to it. So it should be taken as a complete TDMA frame as it is. So the end user efficiency is much less comparatively. Next, so you have the number of overhead. As I told you, the efficiency depends on the overhead bits. So overhead bits over here, BOH is the number of overhead bits, is equal to NR into BR plus NT into BP plus NT into BG plus NR into BG. It is NR is the number of reference bursts per frame, BR is the reference bits per reference burst, and NT is the number of traffic bursts per frame, BP overhead bits per preamble in each slot. So every single parameter has to be considered. The last one is equivalent bits in each guard time, BG. So all these would add on to the overhead bits, and which is calculated, and then the efficiency can be considered. Now the formula is BT is equal to TF into R. Total number of bits per frame in a TDMA. Number of bits for each frame is BT, which is calculated as frame duration into channel bit rate. R is the channel bit rate. So BT is equal to TF into R. Please make a note of all these formulas, which will help us when we'll solve the numericals for this module. Efficiency, frame efficiency, we take it as F. F is equal to 1 minus BOH by BT, that is overhead bits by total bandwidth into 100. Number of overhead bits by total number of bits per frame, that is, sorry, BT is number of bits per frame. So this is a formula to calculate efficiency of a TDMA system. Third technique is space division multiple access, where here the radiated energy is controlled for each user in space. We use spot beam antennas, and we use different antennas for each user, and we transmit the signals in space. Now base station tracks user when moving also. So cover areas with same frequency, that is TDMA or CDMA system, that is CDMA covers the same areas, same, that is as like what TDMA and FDMA covers. And yeah, so basically it uses this, we have already studied about this space diversity technique. So something similar, where we use space or separation in space of these antennas for transmitting the data. Or we also use it as sectored antennas. We have already learned about antenna sectoring and all that. So in future, maybe all these could simultaneously steer energy in the direction of many users at once. So space SDMA is a technique where we use the specifications of the antenna or its radiation pattern to get this multiple access, or to allow different users to communicate at the same time. So in space, what happens is different propagation paths are provided. That is, as I told you, you have an uplink, you have a downlink. So the power in these systems, or in each user to the base station, is to be controlled. That is, the radiated power is being controlled to achieve this technique. Now this is limited by the battery consumption of the subscriber unit, which is also a criteria, the battery consumption of each subscriber, each user. So possible solution is, maybe you could use proper filters for each user to utilize this technology in a better way. A possible solution could be use of adaptive antennas, that is, which promise to mitigate all these reverse link problems, like reverse signal may not be accessed properly. All such problems can be overcome if we use adaptive antennas, which are able to control the power being radiated by it. So in such a technique, a unique channel can be created which is free from interference, and all users communicate at the same time using the same channel. Major disadvantage of SDMA is we have to compromise a little, because for such an adaptive antenna system we would require infinitely large antenna to be used. So that is a drawback which would add on to cost. The last technique is the spread spectrum multiple access technique. You have already learned this technique in digital communications in your previous S6 semester. So spread spectrum is nothing but you have a signal, you're spreading it over the available bandwidth. Okay, so spread spectrum technique is mainly used for security purposes, and you can classify spread spectrum into two basically. One is direct sequence spread spectrum, second is frequency hopping spread spectrum, and all these are mainly used in the CDMA technology or FHMA technology, or you have the hybrid technology, all this FDMA. You can club these technologies as well. FDMA can be clubbed with CDMA to form FCDMA systems, and such things can be done which are not that is a higher version of all these techniques. So in your syllabus we have to cover only the basic concept or create a general understanding of different multiple access techniques. So spread spectrum communication, where you can see over here, this is a general model of the digital communication system which uses spread spectrum. As you can see, you have the input which is given to channel encoder, you have the modulator, channel, and demodulator, decoder. So the only part or the only block which is extra is the one which is referred as a pseudo noise generator. What we do in spread spectrum is, suppose I have a message to be transmitted, and which is very secretive message, and I don't want any other user to access it. Yeah, for example, I'm trying to communicate or trying to connect with a Bluetooth device or a Bluetooth of another user's mobile. So we have some secret code, right? So we actually first set up or we pair the device first. So this pairing is what is referred, or this pairing is this pairing up is actually spread spectrum technique over there. That is, each message is being encrypted or is being multiplied with a random sequence, which is not really random, but it looks random. A sequence of ones and zeros, which only the transmitter and the receiver will be knowing. So only they can decode the data. So you multiply the message with some bit sequence. Okay. So that bit sequence has to be known to the receiver as well. Only then can that particular receiver, which is the authorized receiver, can access the data, and no other user or no other intruder or user can understand the data. For those unauthorized users, this message would look like a random signal, or it looks like a noise signal for them. That is why it is referred to as pseudo noise generator. This generator this is not actually random, but it looks like random because it's a sequence of zeros and ones. You take a long string of ones and zeros, and in a first look it gives us a random appearance. So that concept is being used in spread spectrum. Here you can see this is frequency hopping spread spectrum, where each user, suppose you have a message to be transmitted. Now that message is being split at different frequencies and then transmitted. You can see frequency hopping. Hopping means jumping from one frequency to the other. Now let's say the whole message, the message F5th slot, you can see F1, at F1 message 5 is transmitted. So accordingly the graph is also plotted. You can see the whole message is split at different frequencies, so that, let's say first if it's at F5, then it jumps to F8. Yeah, so then it comes back to F3, it goes back to F7. So the frequency is changing every time. So there's a change in frequency, or there's a hop in frequency. That is why it's referred to as frequency hopping spread spectrum. And the advantage of this technique is that, suppose we have a very smart user who's trying to hack the message. Okay, so once he tries to set it to a frequency F5 initially, F5, so he can get that part of the message, right? So, but then by the time the message has hopped to a different frequency, say F8, so the user which is always connected to F5 gets maybe on a split of a second of the information, which is nothing meaningful. So every time it keeps jumping, so it becomes difficult for the intruder to get or decode the message. Frequency hopping spread spectrum, this is the block diagram. We have the binary data which is given to the modulator, and then here what happens is, whatever the pseudo, you take some bits, then you depending on it, you code it to some value. The PN sequence is to be generated, and then for each frequency a particular PN sequence has to be assigned. So that is done by the frequency synthesizer. I think the picture is not so clear, but then this figure is only to make you understand the concept. Okay, the shaded part is nothing but the mixer. okay, where the one of the inputs of the mixer is the input and the other input is a PN sequence. There in the mixer it is multiplied and then given to the bandpass filter and then transmitted. Demodulator, same thing happens. So as I told you, the same PN sequence which is used at the transmitter should be used at the receiver as well. Only then can it be decoded correctly. So frequency hopping is nothing but the entire message is being spread, or it is simultaneous. It is not instantaneously. It is sequentially divided to different slots of frequency and then transmitted. Whereas we have one more technique, which is direct sequence spread spectrum, which will be covered in the coming videos. Pages. Yeah. So here frequency hopping spread spectrum is further classified into slow frequency hopping and fast frequency hopping, where slow frequency is where you have the hopping duration is larger or equal to the symbol duration. Yeah, so you have one hop. In one hop, several messages are transmitted, or several symbols are transmitted. That is, hopping time is very small. In one hop, several symbols are transmitted. Whereas in fast frequency hopping, it is other way around. In several hops, one symbol is transmitted. That is when TC is less than TS. That is chip duration. TC is chip duration, TS is a symbol rate, chip rate and symbol rate. So slow frequency hopping, all these images are taken directly from digital communication, so that it becomes a brush up for you of the concepts which you have already covered in the previous semesters. So you can see over here, symbol is 00. Slow frequency hopping is where one hop, many symbols, right? So you can see the PN sequence is on top. You have symbols below, input binary data below it. So for each sequence, you have multiple symbols. Yeah, this is slow frequency hopping. Whereas in fast frequency hopping, on top you have the PN sequence, and down you have the input data. I'm talking about this and this, okay? So that is a PN sequence is given and input binary data is given. So you can see for one PN sequence, slot of the PN sequence, or you can see in the first two, you have two PN sequence slots and you have binary data of only 0 and 1. So this is fast frequency hopping, where you can see this hopping speed or PN sequence is more than the input data. Next is code division multiple access, CDMA. In this technique, many users are allowed to share the same bandwidth. You have the 3G WCDMA, that is wideband CDMA technique. The basic principle of CDMA is each user in TDMA, each user is assigned a time slot, right? So here in CDMA, instead of time slot of frequency, each is assigned a code, a unique spreading code, and using this code, it spreads a signal. So the processing gain is actually the spreading factor, how much the signal is spread. Okay, that is TB by TC, bit duration by chip duration. So the processing gain protects a useful signal and reduces interference between different users. So the processing gain is actually the parameter to decide the effectiveness of the system, how much it is being spread. More the spread, less would be the interference. CDMA for direct sequence spread spectrum technique. Say you can see over here there are different users, okay, and each is being transmitted, and the receiver, what happens is noise gets added and then it is decoded back. So direct sequence spread spectrum is simultaneous or instantaneous spreading of the signal, where you multiply it with a PN sequence and you transmit it. Whereas in FHSS, it was different frequencies, right? It keeps hopping from one frequency to the other. So that is more secure because at any instant of time, the frequency keeps on changing. Whereas here, in direct sequence, frequency is the same, but it is being multiplied with the PN sequence. That is the only difference. If you consider this example, over here we have user A, user B and user C. Okay, three different users, and each the code for use all these three different users are shown to the left. All the codes are different. Now if you transmit it for the message 1101, you can see this for the same message 1101, when three codes are used, this is how the signal appears to be. So you can see none of those signals appear same, right? So there is security of data. Though all the three signals convey the same message of 1101, since we have used different codes and we have multiplied the signal with those codes, you can see none of these signals looks same. So in this way, each user can use its own code to transmit signals simultaneously. This technique is being used in code division multiple access, where different users are provided with different codes to access the channel. So thank you. I hope the concept of TDMA, FDMA, SDMA and spread spectrum also, all these techniques are clear to you. See you in the next video where we'll be discussing about the wireless generations. Okay, so thank you for watching the video. Have a nice day.